Midsummer sunlight poured through the glass curtain wall of the skyscraper, dappling the marble floor of Sterling's lobby. Sophie clutched her brand-new employee badge and followed HR through the crowd, catching snatches of whispered chatter from a cluster of young women. "Did you see that? The guy in the elevator, Adrian, the third heir, even hotter than in Forbes. Oh my god, that aura. Icy, untouchable, straight out of a novel. They say he took over Sterling's tech division at 30. Young, brilliant, and that face, and marrying him would be like winning the cosmic lottery." Sophie listened with half an ear, never breaking stride. She'd seen the name Adrian in the pre-employment tower dossier. Third son of Sterling's founder, bona fide royalty in this city of billionaires. To her, such people were constellations, distant, glittering, utterly irrelevant to the urgent matter of learning her new job and carving out a place inside this glittering tower. A year vanished in a blink. Sophie's performance rocketed her from rookie to pillar of her division. In senior meetings she would sometimes spot Adrian at the head of the table, dressed in a razor-cut dark suit, features carved from ice, eyes sharp enough to slice metal. He spoke little, yet his presence pressed on everyone like the thinnest, sharpest blade. When the meeting ended she filed out with everyone else, never imagining their orbits might cross. Until that day, a family emergency sent Sophie rushing to city to file paperwork. She had just finished filling out the forms when a familiar figure stepped inside. White shirt, black trousers, the usual armor of authority missing, but the magnetism intact. Adrian. She froze, instinctively pivoting to escape, but he called her name. Sophie, low, smooth, laced with cool politeness. She stopped, offered an awkward smile. "Sterling, here on business too?" He nodded, gaze dropping to the papers in her hand. After a beat he said, "Anything I can help with?" She blinked, startled by the offer. "No, thank you. I've got it covered." He didn't press. Instead, "I need a wife. Marry me." The sentence detonated inside her skull. She was certain she'd misheard, eyes rounding. "I'm sorry, what?" His face stayed neutral, as though he'd asked for the time. "I need a spouse to satisfy family pressure. You suit me. I'll compensate you. After the wedding we stay out of each other's way." Sophie's mind went white. She didn't know why he'd chosen her, only that the emergency at home was crushing her. And his terms, no interference, sounded like airtight insulation around her real life. A transaction, nothing more. She inhaled, tasted iron, and nodded. "All right, I agree." Minutes later, one brief meeting. Zero courtship. They signed the marriage certificate. Back on the sidewalk, red booklet in hand, Sophie felt she was sleepwalking. Adrian's expression hadn't shifted once, as if the groom beside her were a stranger wearing his face. He handed her a sticky note with an address in an exclusive Heights complex. "Move in today. I have meetings." He strode off without a backward glance. She watched him disappear, heart juggling dread and curiosity. Whatever door she'd opened, there was no closing it now. Only after settling into Adrian's Eastbrook estate did Sophie learn what a wealth meant. Vast rooms glowed with quiet luxury, sunlit, fragrant, perfectly climate-controlled, yet the halls echoed with her solitary footsteps. Adrian came home rarely, and when he did he vanished into his study or the master suite. Conversation was practically non-existent. Sophie, honoring their pact, built her own rhythm. Wake, subway, tower, gym, home, book, bed. Weekends she wandered the manicured grounds or binge-watched shows in the media room. A full year slipped by before Sophie noticed an odd statistic. They exchanged more sentences in bed than out of it. Not that the bedroom saw constant action. Adrian's appetites were disciplined. His words rationed like water in a drought. Yet in the dark he curved around her with almost unconscious tenderness, fitting her against his chest as though she were breakable. Some nights she surfaced from sleep to find moonlight silvering his profile, softening every arrogant angle. Once, exhausted from a product launch, she'd collapsed on top of the duvet still in her work clothes. In the small hours she sensed someone lift the quilt over her, brush hair from her temple. She'd half woken, sighed, and slid back under. At breakfast she discovered a glass of warm milk and a sticky note in decisive handwriting. "Eat, sleep. World won't end." Another time a vicious flu slammed her, 103-degree fever, limbs like wet sand. She lay on the sofa certain she was dissolving when Adrian walked in. His face darkened. Without a word he scooped her up, carried her to his car, and broke every speed limit to Seabrook. He handled intake, insurance, medication, stationed himself on the plastic chair beside her gurney while 4 fluids dripped. When her lids fluttered open she croaked. "Thank you." He pressed her shoulder. "Save your breath." Later she caught him watching her instead of the quarterly report on his lap. "Better?" he asked, voice low. She managed a nod, and for the first time the distance between them felt bridgeable. One slender span over an abyss of secrets and signed contracts. Trembling, but still standing. I feel much better now. Thank you, Adrian, Sophie whispered. Next time you're not feeling well, call me. After he said it, Adrian fell silent again. From that day on, Sophie noticed Adrian was coming home more and more often. Sometimes he texted her ahead so she could have dinner ready. Sometimes he showed up unannounced, carrying her favorite snacks. They started talking more, too. Over dinner, he would ask about her day and listen to her vent about work. On weekends, he would drive her out to the country or take her to whatever movie she wanted to see. Little by little, Sophie realized Adrian wasn't cold at all. He just didn't know how to show it. Under that proud exterior beat a gentle, thoughtful heart, and she, without noticing, had begun to feel something deeper for him. The more time they spent together, the more Sophie suspected his kindness went beyond their original deal. He always appeared the moment she needed him. He remembered every favorite food and surprised her when she least expected it. Once, chatting with coworkers, she mentioned loving a certain old-school bakery that was clear across town from Tower. The next afternoon, Adrian personally drove her there, standing in front of the window crammed with beautiful cakes. Sophie was overwhelmed. How did you know I love this place? She asked. Forkful of cake halfway to her mouth. Adrian sipped his coffee. Overheard you at Tower and filed it away. She smiled and let it go, but inside she knew it couldn't be that simple. Another time, her birthday. She had nearly forgotten, but Adrian hadn't. That night he came home early, cooked every dish she loved, and presented a delicate birthday cake. When he wheeled it toward her and started singing, tears slid down her cheeks. Adrian, thank you, she choked out. He brushed the tears away with his thumb, eyes soft. Happy birthday, Xiao Qing. It was the first time he'd called her Xiao Qing instead of Sophie or Sterling. Her heart lurched. In his gaze she saw unmistakable love. In that instant Sophie understood. Maybe this marriage had never been a simple transaction. Maybe Adrian's tenderness had been plotting its course long before she saw it. To test the theory, she began watching him more closely. In his study, she found relics of her life, snapshots from college competitions, articles she'd written, even a crayon drawing she'd done as a kid, things she herself had forgotten. She had no clue how he'd gathered them. One day she finally asked, "When did you start collecting me?" Adrian hesitated, then smiled. "Ages ago. You were still at Riverside. I came to give a guest lecture. Saw you in the second row soaking up every word, and something about you stuck. I've kept track ever since." Sophie stared, stunned. Their story went back that far. "Then why didn't you tell me sooner?" she complained softly. He laced his fingers through hers. "You were too young. I didn't want to derail your life. When you joined Tower and I watched how hard you worked, I decided to guard you from a distance. The family kept pushing me to marry, so I chose the one route that could put you beside me." Warmth flooded her. She nestled against his chest. "Adrian, thank you for watching over me all this time." "Silly. We're married now. Who else am I supposed to guard?" He stroked her hair, voice tender. From then on their bond deepened. Adrian dropped the last of his aloofness, sharing office stories, grocery shopping, catching movies, nursing her when she caught a cold. Sophie, in turn, grew inseparable from him. She cooked his favorite meals, massaged his shoulders after brutal days, soothed him when markets turned rough. Their everyday life turned into a string of cozy, glowing moments. Mornings she woke in his arms and they shared breakfast. Evenings they curled up on the sofa to stream a show or just talk. Weekends they escaped on quick trips to discover new corners of the world. As weeks slipped by, their routine settled into delicious detail. Adrian rose 30 minutes early to make breakfast. Sophie padded into the kitchen in his wrinkled shirt, hugging him from behind and mumbling, "Honey, I'm starving." He turned to pinch her cheek. 2 more minutes. After eating he drove her to Tower, kissing her at the curb while coworkers pretended not to watch. At lunch he WhatsApped to be sure she ate. Occasionally he sent her favorite meal via the new assistant, prompting envious sighs around the office. Evenings he waited outside Tower, took her bag, laced their fingers, and listened to her recap the day while he navigated traffic back to Heights. At home they cooked together, bumping hips, laughing when sauce splattered. After dinner they walked the quiet loop of Heights under lamplight and flower-scented breeze, sometimes stopping on a bench to stargaze. Weekends meant supermarket runs, Sophie steering the cart, tossing in snacks while Adrian trailed behind, secretly returning half the junk food to the shelves when she wasn't looking, only to sneak it back in at the register because making her happy trumped everything. Adrian always stayed right beside her while she shopped, patient, slipping in a suggestion now and then. When the cart was finally packed they would lug the bulging shopping bags back to the Heights, roll up their sleeves, and cook together, wipe counters, vacuum rugs, and leave the apartment spotless. Sometimes they invited friends over. Sophie would lay out a feast that covered every inch of the dining table, and Adrian would open bottles and keep the conversation flowing. Watching the noisy, candlelit scene, Sophie felt her chest flood with warmth. this, she thought, was exactly the life she had always wanted. Cool and aloof in public. Adrian turned out to be a closet romantic. He sprang surprises on her when she least expected them. For their first anniversary, he booked the flights and beachfront hotel weeks in advance and flew her to Seabrook, the town she had been Pinterest pinning for years. The moment the wheels touched down on Seabrook's runway, Sophie clamped both hands over her mouth, too thrilled to speak. Their suite hovered right over the Atlantic. Slide the glass and the sea rolled out forever. That evening Adrian walked her to a restaurant built on pilings above the surf. Candles shivered. A jazz trio murmured. They were given the corner window. Between bites of fresh catch, they watched moonlight stitch silver ladders across the water. Pure, private magic. After dessert, Adrian laced his fingers through hers and steered her down the boardwalk. The sea breeze combed their hair. Waves cracked and fizzed on the sand. And suddenly the night flowered open in streams of fireworks. Sophie's head snapped back. Tears springing as gold and sapphire bloomed above the mast line. Like it? He slipped behind her, mouth at her ear. She nodded, spun, and looped her arms around his neck, planting a noisy kiss on his cheek. I love it, husband. Thank you. Smiling, he produced a velvet box. Happy anniversary. Inside lay a necklace, a heart-cut diamond that caught the moon and threw it back in shards of light. It's gorgeous, she whispered. He unclasped the chain and fastened it around her throat. That stone is my heart, never changing. Sophie melted against him, certain no woman on earth had ever been this lucky. After Seabrook's pampering only ramped up, he memorized every small preference. The brown sugar tonic for day 1 of her period. Heat patch on the nightstand. Warm milk at exactly 10:30. When a work crisis hit, he walked her through the numbers. When she was gloomy, he turned into stand-up comic, meme supplier, and ice cream fetcher all at once. One night she dragged home after a project imploded, locked herself in the bedroom, and face-planted on the duvet. Adrian never pressed. He simply sauntered to the kitchen, lined her favorite pan, and let the sweet-sour aroma of sweet and sour ribs drift under the door. Knock. Soft. Dinner's ready. She stayed buried, but her nose twitched. That smell equaled comfort. 30 seconds later, she cracked the door, eyes puffy. Adrian set the steaming platter on the table and ruffled her hair. Teams lose games. This wasn't your pitch. She blinked. How do you see the deck? Asked your division manager for a copy. He nudged the ribs closer. Eat first. Then we'll tear the proposal apart and build it better. They stayed up until 2. Reconstructing market data. Rewriting CTAs. Stress testing pricing tiers. He never lectured, just asked questions until she found her own answers. Watching his focused profile, Sophie felt the failure drain away and something safer take its place. From then on, Adrian's dad mode activated daily. Before she left for Sterling, he checked her bag for keys and phone. When the forecast dipped, he laid her parka on the comforter. He even annotated her calendar with tiny red dots so he could have heat patches and brown sugar ginger tea waiting. One Saturday, she slipped out to meet Lily at Galleria and forgot to text. Halfway through the shoe racks, her phone buzzed. Adrian. Mild panic under the calm. Where are you? You're not home. Shopping with Lily. Sorry. It slipped my mind. Drop me a pin. I'll pick you up. 30 minutes later, his charcoal gray Audi purred at the curb. Lily's eyes went comically wide. Your husband is literally the full package. Look at that jawline. Hello, Mr. GQ. Sophie flushed. Lily. This is Adrian. Adrian. Lily from accounting. He gave a polite nod, then eased the shopping bags from Sophie's grip. You tired? Bubble tea stop? Lily fanned herself. Girl, you married a man who shops for you and feeds you boba. Daddy energy off the charts. Sophie buried her face in Adrian's sleeve. He only laughed. She's younger. It's my job to look after her. Lily wiggled her eyebrows. I'll leave before the sugar rush gets obscene. Have fun, kids. When Lily vanished, Sophie poked his ribs. I'm 25, not 15. He pinched her cheek. In my head you stay the kid who needs me. She tried to scowl. Failed. And let him tow her toward the neon tea shop. Fine, Dad. Buy me the brown sugar pearl. Life rolled on sweet until the rumor hit. A stunning new assistant transferred into tower. Within days, gossip blogs were splashing snapshots of her laughing over a folder she had just handed Adrian. Body language reading way too cozy. Sophie told herself it was nothing, but every time a coworker forwarded the link, her stomach twisted. That night, Adrian stepped into the living room and found her on the couch. Laptop open. The incriminating photo blown up on the screen. Her eyes fixed on the TV she wasn't watching. Adrian Adrian walked over and sat down beside her, lowering his voice. What's wrong? Who made my Sophie unhappy? Sophie gave a little snort and turned her head away. You know perfectly well. He blinked, then caught on. Pulling out his phone, he opened the photo gallery and held a snapshot in front of her. Are you jealous? Sophie glanced down, Adrian with the new assistant. Except the girl was flanked by several coworkers, clearly taken during a tower team building picnic. It's nothing special, she muttered stubbornly. Adrian laughed softly and tucked her into his arms. That assistant is my second cousin once removed. She just graduated and I pulled some strings. If it bothers you, I'll have her moved to another division. Most of Sophie's irritation melted away in an instant, though she kept her bravado. I didn't ask you to move her. I just think she flirts too obviously. Flirting is pointless. My heart only beats for you. He dropped a kiss on her forehead. Next time, don't stew by yourself. Just ask me, okay? Sophie nodded, nestling against him, secretly vowing to stop letting her imagination run wild. Another time, Sophie's parents came to the city. Adrian took the day off and cooked an entire banquet. Over dinner, her mother clasped his hand and gushed. Adrian, you're an angel. Our Sophie was spoiled rotten. If her temper flares, please be patient. Adrian smiled. Mom, don't worry. Sophie's wonderful. How could I ever feel burdened? Sophie's cheeks burned. Mom, stop. I'm not ill-tempered. Everyone laughed, the table glowing with warmth. Afterward, Adrian played chess with her dad while Sophie and her mom cleared the dishes. Mom whispered, sweetheart, Adrian is gold. Treasure him. Don't act out like before. Sophie nodded, throat tight. She knew her mother's words came from love, and that Adrian had given her a happiness she'd never known. As their bond deepened, Sophie grew curious. When had Adrian first fallen for her? One evening, curled together on the couch, she asked, Babe, fess up. You planned this whole marriage from the start, didn't you? Adrian set the remote aside and met her gaze. Pretty much. Her eyes sparkled. Spill. He laughed, settling into the memory. The very first time I saw you wasn't at Tower or some college guest lecture. You were still in high school. I'd come to Riverside for a charity drive. On Eastbrook, you stopped to help a little kid who tripped over his kite. Sunlight hit your face and you smiled, blinding. I never forgot. Sophie's jaw dropped. High school. I don't remember that at all. You were a kid. Why would you? He ruffled her hair. After that I kept track. Where you applied. Your major. I arranged to give a guest lecture at Riverside just to see you again, while you sat in the front row, hanging on every word. I thought, that's it. She's my forever. Then why didn't you ask me out sooner? She demanded. You were still studying. I didn't want to derail you. He squeezed her hand. Later, when you joined Sterling, watching you hustle thrilled and scared me. Direct confession felt risky. What if you said no? My family kept pushing marriage, so I figured, lock you down with a ring first, then let love catch up. Sophie's throat thickened. She burrowed into him. You dummy. What if I'd refused? What if I'd never loved you back? I'd have waited. Kept spoiling you until you did. He kissed her damp cheek. Luckily, I didn't wait long. She gazed into the ocean of affection in his eyes, then tipped up and brushed his lips. Thank you, babe, for guarding me all these years. I love you so much. Adrian folded her so tightly, she could feel his heartbeat. Every second of waiting had been worth it. 2 years zipped past. They surfed waves of sweetness, bickered over silly things, and each crest and trough soldered them tighter. Sophie's career soared. With Adrian's steady cheerleading, she earned a promotion to division manager. And Tower, under Adrian's helm, became the sector's pace setter. On a sun-kissed weekend, he drove her back to Seabrook, the town where they first met. Standing on the same stretch of sand, Adrian suddenly dropped to one knee and produced a velvet box. Inside lay an architect-designed engagement ring. Sophie, his voice trembled. 2 years ago, I caught you with a paper marriage. Today, I want to claim you properly, with this ring. I've messed up, ignored you, been a tyrant at times, but I will keep learning, keep choosing you, every single day. Will you marry me, again? Tears flew down her cheeks as she nodded wildly, yes, yes. He slipped the ring on and swept her off her feet, whispering against her ear, thank you, sweetheart. Our forever starts now. The sea breeze teased their hair, waves applauding against the shore. Sophie snugged against him, certain their flash marriage fairy tale had just turned perfect. Later, they welcomed 2 bright-eyed kids, a boy as cool and thoughtful as Adrian, a girl as lively and sunny as Sophie. Their house rang with laughter, 4 heartbeats drumming the same happy rhythm.